Hello everybody, welcome back to Lotus Operations, and in today's fun video I'm actually going to be showing you how you can take a regular piece of old rusted up steel and turn it into either a fun training weapon or a weapon of some type that you can use in case shit does hit the fan and everything collapses and you're not able to go out and buy your own weapons. Hey everybody, welcome back to Lotus Operations, and as I mentioned before, I'm going to be taking a regular piece of steel and turning it into an actual usable weapon. Now this one that you see right here is the training blades that I made for my kids to teach them how to fight with the blade and to teach them some techniques that they could possibly need to use in case our weapons are confiscated, everything collapses and you can't access guns or bow and arrows or spears or stuff like that. But this is going to be my first video for my weapons profile, my playlist series that I'm going to be doing. And I'm just basically going to be taking a regular piece of steel. We're going to make ourselves a small little knife, because as you can see from this is all the steel that I have left, and it's about the length of this. So we're just gonna make ourselves a little short blade for the tutorial. I'm gonna see what I can do out of this, just so I can show you how to make a cheap but effective weapon that is still pretty good and can actually handle up to some pretty good shit. And so how about we just begin the tutorial and let's have some fun today. Okay everybody, once you finally came up with your design that you want for your blade, don't mind this up here, that's my old design. You're going to draw basically your design out on your piece of metal. Then you're going to get your grinders and all your other blades, and you're going to begin the cutting process. Now if you have a cutting torch, welding gear, you can use that too. Whatever way you have to cut out the metal. I like grinders with cutting swords and daggers because it creates a straight edge and you don't have all the little wiggly lines from a cutting torch unless you're really good at it. But I just use grinders and grinding blades. So let's start cutting this blade out.
Once you get your metal locked in and you get your respirator on or mask, whatever you did, I made a homemade mask to keep the metal particles out of my lungs because you don't want to be breathing in the metal particles. You're going to cut this puppy out, then you're going to smooth it down, and then you're going to be able to start forming your blade. So let's begin cutting. Okay, so once you get your piece of metal cut out, it's going to be hot, so don't burn yourself. But after the metal is cut out, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to swap our bits. We're going to clean up all the rough edges to make sure it's nice and smooth. Then we'll begin forming the blade. So guys, as you can see, we have our smoothing disc that we're going to utilize to smooth off the rust and get the metal all nice and shiny so we can be able to start forming our blade. 40 grit is what you need to start the process, and then you go to a higher grit to make it more shinier and when you're starting to sharpen it. So we're going to swap the bits over and we're going to begin the smoothing process. Okay, so once you get the metal blade all cleaned up and pretty looking with all the rust off, the next step would be to straightening up the edges and beginning to taper them down into a point. So before you start straightening up your blade, you want to get a position to where you have your handle marked out by your hand to be able to be grabbed comfortably. And then you only want to smooth up to the handle part. I mean, you want everything smooth, but you don't have to taper. You just taper up to where you want your handle to stop at. Okay everybody, and as you can see here, I've got it as smooth and straight as possible. I just got to clean this little section up right here because there's a slight curve on it, but I'm gonna get that a little bit straighter. And as you can see, it's all cleaned up except for the handle. I haven't worked on that yet because I want to work on this side first, then I'll move to the handle side. But now we are going to get this a little bit straighter here, and then we are going to begin to taper it.
Hello everybody and welcome back to day 2 of us making our, as we could say, survival weapon. That's what I'm going to call it for now, but basically a weapon just made at the spur of the moment with electricity, of course, around you. Now, if you did not have electricity, you would have to do it a more traditional way, which would take a lot longer. And I really don't know how to do that yet, so I'm going to have to learn it before I can actually teach y'all how to do that, because I'm not effective at that right now. But we are going back, and a quick refresher is this is what we have so far, and we are going to begin to start adding the fine point to it and start to shape the handle. So let's begin finding it down into a
Okay everybody, so once you get the blade to about to the angle that you want, then we're going to step it down again to start to create the sharper edge. So this is about an angle that I would like for it to have. So now I'm going to do another angle to get it from being fat like that down to a sharper edge. Now, as you can see, the edge is beginning to take shape, if the camera will focus in. And we're getting it like really fine-tuned and sharp. So this is still with the 40 grit disc. But now what we're going to do to get it even sharper is to get the 120 grit disc to be able to give it that really sharp edge that we want. Okay everybody, welcome back. And so as you can see here that I shaped up the hilt of it, my handle section, so I made it all nice and smooth and slightly curved on the inside to fit my hand a little bit better, so I would have better grip when I'm utilizing it. And so now I think this is the design that I'm just going to stick with for this video. I still haven't figured out if I'm going to taper this side or not, or if I'm going to be able to use it where I can push it on the back to also use it as a knife. But I also tapered in this to make it a slight little design of a curve instead of being so pointy, as it kind of S's in there like that. So this is basically what it's going to look like. Now I'm going to swap from the 40 grit to the 120 grip to begin to polish it and sharpen it down. But once this cools down, we're going to do a quick test on the tree to see how it does right now. But as of now, the blade is not hardened, so we will have to cook it to harden the blade later on to make it a little bit more resilient to damage. Okay everybody, we have our 120 grit on there, and I did a quick polishing of the handle, and you can see the difference in the video, hopefully. This is not too hot. Okay, this is not hot. As in the sunlight, you can see the difference between the 120 grit and the 40 grit shades on the metal. I don't know how well in the video you're able to see it, but you can see the difference. So there we go. So now I want to do the entire sword like the backing, where it's nice and polished, so that it gives it a better, more pristine look. So I'm gonna do the rest of the blade like this, and then we will prepare it for cooking for day 3 of the video.
Whew, I need to get that mask off. It's getting kind of warm in there. So now comes the point is if you want to do any decorative stuff. Like me, I'm going to wrap leather around this blade, okay? That's going to be another process I'm going to do. You don't have to wrap leather if you don't want to. I may end up not wrapping leather around the blade. Now, as you can see with the Crude blade, it's not going to be perfect like factory made. Or like if you're a master swordsman, you know? Fine tune it down, practice it down, you know? You're going to have flaws. But if shit hit the fan and you needed to make a survival blade or a weapon right on the spot, you know, this is the way to do it. It will be effective, it will be efficient, and it will work. So I'm going to add a blood groove down the middle of the blade, and then I'm going to drill 2 holes in here so that I will be able to effectively wrap my leather around the blade to give myself a better handle instead of just holding metal, so the heat or the cold does not affect the handling of the blade. But so when I do that, I will get back to y'all. But right now we need to drill the holes, and we need to do the blood groove, and then we will cook the blade before we wrap it.
Hello everybody and welcome back to day 3 of me teaching you how to make a crude weapon for when shit hits the fan. So, as you've seen before, I have my entire weapon cut out to the design that I desire at that time frame, pre-sharpened down. But now you can see I have a line drawn in the center of the weapon because I am going to be cutting out my blood groove. So I'm going to be using my sharp bit disc to cut the groove, and then I'm going to smooth it out, and then we will be cooking it. Okay everybody, as you can see here, we have the rough cut of our blood groove in the blade. Now we're going to get our sanding disc, smooth it out, and then we'll be ready for cooking.
Okay everybody, welcome back. I have my blood groove into the blade to give it a little effect. You don't have to do this. I wanted to do this just for the video purposes because I've always wanted to try to make my own, but it is not required on a weapon. All that does is to help lighten the blade if your front is way too heavy, so you can help to balance the blade better. Unfortunately, my blade is still not perfectly balanced at the handle like it should be, but it will allow me to have it go back a little bit more, because when I add the leather, that's going to add a little bit of weight to the back, which will help bring it back a little bit more. Their main reason is to lighten the blade and strengthen it up, because now it has different angles instead of just being flat. But you don't have to add it. I wanted to, so this is what it's going to look like. So now we are going to have to cook it and then wrap it up with leather. So let's wait until we have a burn day, because unfortunately we live in communist California, so therefore we have to wait till we can burn. And once we can burn, I can cook the blade up, and then we'll have this puppy wrapping up.